destiny. The Force will be with you. Always.
Welcome back to Kris Vets. I'm your host and back with Dom the Disembodied Discord voice. And today, since we missed last week because 4th of July weekend, we are talking about Disney's follow-up to The Last Breath of the Jedi, and that is The Rise of Skywalker. Sorta, kinda, not really. I mean, she self-identifies as a Skywalker at the end, but we'll get to that.
Given the pacing issues that that could have arose, I'm happy they didn't show any scenes of her filing out the forms or whatever. That probably would have slowed the movie down.
Yeah, probably. I don't even know where to fucking start with this one. I know a lot of people are saying that this movie is better than The Last Jedi, and I'm not walking back when I'm saying about The Last Jedi. Last Jedi's bad. Last Jedi was a fucking mess. But this movie is even worse, in my opinion. Because The Last Jedi was at least Abrams, well, it was Rian Johnson at least trying to play to one audience, him. This movie is J.J. Abrams trying to jack everybody off at once.
I'm of the opinion you can't definitively say, I guess it just comes down to personal preference. You can't definitively say any of the three sequel movies is better than the other.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. They're all shiny as shit. They're all hollow as shit. And they're all over-budgeted fan films.
I actually think this of the sequel movies, this is the one with the least amount of redeeming features. It avoids some of the problems in The Last Jedi, a lot of the problems, but it also doesn't have some of the good ideas. It's a convoluted mess.
Yeah, it feels like an overcorrection, like Jar Jar Abrams saw the fan backlash to The Last Jedi and kind of tried to overcorrect. Whereas The Last Jedi was Rian Johnson just playing with himself. This movie, like I said earlier, is J.J. Abrams just trying to fillet everybody. It's trying to fillet fans of The Last Jedi. It's trying to fillet old school Star Wars fans. The fucking Reylo shippers.
Oh yeah, that anyone who shipped Rey with anybody, ha ha ha. I'm just gonna interject and say I'm kind of bewildered that anyone got so attached to these characters that they really got into shipping them. Like what did you get that I missed?
Yeah. Like with Finn initially, like because he's a stormtrooper leaving the First Order, like in The Force Awakens there was something there, and as the sequels progressively went on, his character just became less and less of his character until he was just comic relief black guy.
Boyega was pretty disgruntled about things, as you may have figured out. And
his Twitter certainly leaves nothing to the imagination.
He said basically they wasted the character, and I'm sort of split on my attitude. On one hand, I think he's right. On the other hand, it's like they could have done the whole sequel trilogy without you. So, be lucky that be happy that they got you in where they could.
They could have done the whole sequel trilogy without Finn or Poe or Rey.
They kind of needed Rey. Unless you're talking about a completely different plot. But no, they needed Rey. And I guess they needed one of either Finn or Poe. and that's it.
Yeah, well, I feel like both Finn and Poe were just wasted characters.
Well, this is all arguing around the sides. Lay it in. What are your thoughts? Plots, how things develop, the writing.
Uh, plot. Really, this movie feels like a fucking fetch quest that is spread out over the course of 2 hours and 22 minutes. It's like, well, we've got to go and get this plot device thing that's going to lead us to this thing that's going to lead us to
Mm-hmm.
Palpatine because, it ain't Star Wars without Palpatine somewhere in it, I guess. It's like a cinematic fetch quest.
Except this is going to be embarrassing. It was kind of hard for me to follow watching the movie. And I felt that way in Rogue One, where in the final act, there's a whole sequence of hoops they have to jump through in order to lower the shield, get the plans through, and all that. It's like, okay, what the hell's going on? And then I gave up on trying to make sense of it all and assumed the characters knew what they were doing.
Yeah, after a while, it's really easy to zone out, especially when you don't give a shit about anybody on screen.
I saw at least one comment saying that they wish Palpatine would quote kill every character in this abortion of a sequel and win.
At least that would have been an ending, because this
That
movie
would have
didn't end; it just kind of stopped.
that would have subverted our expectations.
Back at the one thing people used to defend The Last Jedi. And you know what? At least Palpatine winning would have made actual sense. He already did once.
Yeah, it would have set us up for the sequel trilogy. As it turned out, the sequel trilogy was actually a prequel trilogy to a sequel original trilogy. Yeah, so it is. It really is just okay, now we got to go here, now we got to go there. More than any other Star Wars movie, it's because in A New Hope, the MacGuffin are the Death Star plans, but it's obvious why both sides want it. It's easy to follow. You know where Leia falls into it. You know what they're gonna do with it. With Empire and Jedi, I don't think there is any sort of fetch quest. They just in Jedi, they have the information they want from the beginning. They have they know where the Death Star is. They know where the Emperor is going to be. Phantom Menace, same thing. It's the Jedi trying to deal with the occupation of Naboo. Clones, there's a mystery and a romance running in parallel before it converges on Geonosis. And Sith, that's not a fetch quest. So the only other movie where it rivals Rise of Skywalker in terms of fetch questery is actually its immediate predecessor, Last Jedi, because of them having to find the code breaker and everything. But even Last Jedi was not as multi-layered as this is. It doesn't make any sense. A lot of people have already made fun of the dagger that with the Death Star wreckage. Like, how the hell would they know? First of all, how would you know where to stand exactly and what angle to hold it at? And how could they make a knife or whatever perfectly? How are you going to know what it's going to look like so you can fashion the knife?
I don't think there was any thought put into that. I think Abrams just wanted to have something like the staff pointing to where the Ark is seen from Raiders of the Lost Ark. One of two things I think he blatantly stole from Raiders in this movie. The only difference is in Raiders, there was some logic to it.
It made sense. They had to rewrite a lot of stuff because of Carrie Fisher's death. No fault of theirs, obviously.
Yeah, that was just nature.
Yeah. And so her death was actually not handled well at all. but I will point out that it was handled about as well as Luke's death in in the Last Jedi was. So
God.
that's an indication of the general quality of writing here. A death that they had to write in and had to write in on the fly was handled about as well as something they had total control over.
I mean, this is
It was
J.J. Abrams we're talking about here. The guy, eh, I'd hate to overuse the terminology, but he is a fan film director at best, and that's an insult to Star Wars fan films.
fan film is right. The Return of Palpatine, and you can see it. You
Jesus
can see
Christ!
it's at the beginning of the movie when Poe is talking to the Resistance, and he's like, somehow Palpatine returned, and then he sighs. Like even the characters in the movie are annoyed at this.
Yeah, everybody's turning into Danny Glover and Lethal Weapon. Just I'm too old for this shit.
You see Leia's expression, and it's like, how much longer are we gonna have to deal with this one guy? So
I'm just gonna say it straight up. Making Rey Palpatine's granddaughter to me felt like just one like they spent this entire trilogy not giving us a reason to actually give a shit about Rey. It's like why is she the most important character in the Star Wars franchise now? That felt like a last ditch attempt to make her relevant. And I still don't give a fuck about her.
yeah, the novelty that, oh, it's Palpatine's granddaughter, which I guess would retroactively explain why she's so good at the Force, and it retcons the Last Jedi. I guess people didn't like the Rey's parents were nobodies argument.
Yeah, never mind the fact that Anakin didn't even have a father. Or did he?
Well,
Because I'm not as well tuned into the expanded universe as you are.
it's kind of implied that we won't get into that now, but yeah, just within the films though, Anakin didn't come. He was just virgin pregnancy, but even that was like supposed to be a parallel to the birth of Christ, though. The virgin birth.
Yeah,
Uh,
that
well,
that kind of makes sense.
a bunch of people are saying the Rey plot revelations that, oh, Palpatine fucked or something like that, and they suggest that given the timeline, it would have to be post disfigurement Palpatine that did it. But then if you read, you'll see that apparently the son, Rey's father, was just a clone of Palpatine, like a failed clone who, despite having the Satan of Star Wars as his father, was a normal person. And that really was a failed clone because it doesn't look like a young Palpatine at all.
No, that nothing at all like Ian McDermott.
Yeah, nothing at all like.
But this is J.J. Abrams, the guy who created Lost, a show that ran for what 5, 6 seasons, and I'm guessing they had no clue how they were supposed to end it, so they just threw up their arms and was like, "Fuck it, we'll just say the whole show's taking place in purgatory."
Well, it's someone had a great analogy for Lost, and I think the Star Wars sequel trilogy. It's the equivalent of running up a huge debt on your credit card and only paying the bare minimum balance every month, in terms of setting up explanations and then explanation provided. Like people all know now that they had no grand plan with Lost, and they were just making it up on the fly. And now we know that's how it was with the Star Wars sequels. There are actually multiple as far back as Force Awakens, multiple possibilities for Rey. One of them was she was Obi-Wan Kenobi's offspring. And yes, one of them really was a descendant of Palpatine, but that wasn't taken seriously at the time. As a possibility. They wanted to keep it ambiguous.
Yeah, which on the one hand, I can understand that, but at the same time, the one they ultimately went with. And this is my issue with the sequel trilogy. It's my same issue with. I actually draw a lot of parallels between the sequel trilogy and the Paul W.S. Anderson Resident Evil films. You have an overpowered protagonist who's a completely original character that just sidelines all the fan favorite characters, all the legacy characters. Uh, you have a nonsensical overarching narrative from movie to movie that just seems like the writers are throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. They're just making it up as they go along. You have a final movie that, after a whole series of movies that fails to actually build on its own foundation, just haphazardly tries to slap together a half-hearted explanation for why we're supposed to give a fuck about our main character. With Resident Evil, it was because Alice is a clone of the daughter of the guy who created the T virus. With Star Wars, it's because Rey is Palpatine's granddaughter. And in both cases, the final movie is just it's supposed to send the franchise out with a bang, but it ends with a big wet stinky fart and a blaze of indifference.
Yeah, nothing. The only way to enjoy is just turn your brain off and try to really get into the moment. And
yeah. The one thing this has over Resident Evil, the final chapter, is shit's pretty. It's better shot and it's better edited, but that's not saying much. I can think of a lot of movies that are better shot and edited than Resident Evil, the final chapter.
Let's talk about the plot some. Leia, useless. Again, no fault of theirs. Carried Fisher's death, threw them for a loop. Rose Tico got written out, basically.
Yeah, not going to complain about that. She was useless in the last fucking movie, too.
They claim it wasn't because of backlash, but because most of her scenes were with Leia. But I don't know if I believe them.
Yeah, I'm calling bullshit.
Poe and Finn, I guess it's like Han Solo and Jedi, where it's not really driven. Their character doesn't matter anymore. They're just doing stuff to facilitate the plot.
But at least Han was still. At least in Jedi, Han was still Han.
Yeah, I guess you could argue he got the debt that was troubling him for 2 movies is gone, so now he has some free time.
Yeah. He's still a weapons-grade bullshit merchant.
You know how much I like Palpatine. So
yes.
On one hand, you have my fanboyish pleasure that he's back for a movie, but that's pitted against my logical, rational part of my mind that says it did not help things to bring him back. That's not a good plotting or character decision.
No, it was Abrams needed a new antagonist because Rian Johnson killed his in The Last Jedi prematurely.
Again, you'd rather have one bad director than multiple good ones. So they needed a new villain. It could have just been Kylo Ren, I guess. Like, that would have worked.
Yeah!
It could have just been Kylo Ren, but they brought back Palpatine just as a fan service move.
Yeah, that's all it is.
All the explanation you get is the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. Again, more fan service. If you read up, I was curious, what's the explanation according to the new expanded universe? Well, he just transfers his soul to a clone body, and that's it. Which is exactly what he did in the old expanded universe, in the comics and shit. That's how Palpatine comes back after Return of the Jedi. And tries to build back his empire. So for decades, some of the most maligned elements of the Star Wars expanded universe were the return of Palpatine and ridiculous, overpowered superweapons. And this movie did both of them. The sequel trilogy ended up doing both of them, except to an even more ridiculous degree. Remember when, if you go back to the original movie, they had to the fact that the Death Star could destroy a planet is why it's the big threat, and everybody's devoting all their time and resources just to take out this one thing.
Yeah,
and then in Rise of Skywalker, there's a whole fleet of ships. There's like thousands of them, and any one can destroy a planet. What? Why did you even need a Death Star?
Yeah. Why did they even need a fucking Star Killer in Force Awakens?
that I remember mentioning to you you'd have a good laugh about finding out the origins of Snoke. Palpatine has a bunch of them in a jar, and
Yeah,
I kind of like Ryan Johnson making J.J. Abrams forcing J.J. Abrams to do that to his own villain, to his own creation.
yeah, that was kind of. I just looked at it, I was like, oh, there is no way that's what he originally wanted to do. Snoke.
What did you think about Lando coming back? Uh,
Same thing I felt about Palpatine coming back. It's just fan service.
it kind of makes sense because Lando didn't die in Jedi.
I
Uh,
mean, it's nice to see Billy D. Williams is getting work again, but or I should say that he's still getting work. But at
I
the same time, like
I don't mind seeing Lando. I'm glad he was in the film. I will say that.
yeah, I like Lando as much as the next guy. I appreciate seeing him, but it doesn't change the fact that I have to look at him in a scene with three characters I don't give a fuck about.
It's funny. Star Wars defies the stereotypes. Black guy dies first? No, he's the only human character from the original trilogy not to die. A bunch of people were wondering, is he going to die in this movie? And I guess not. I guess they figured that that'd be too much. No need to kill him off.
Yeah, that was at least it was at least nice that they didn't kill Lando. So thank goodness for small favors, I guess.
I also like how, even though Leia in the last movie completely failed to get anybody to help them, she's out for a few hours and he gets the largest fleet in galactic history. Uh,
Yeah, there's no consistency here. I just love that they even try to rule out Holdo's suicide maneuver in
yeah, they
this
did.
movie. Oh, that's a 1 in a million shot,
Oh, well, she was really lucky then. And
which
then,
you and I talked about in the last video.
yeah, General Hux, another character who got wasted. He gets usurped by a new guy, Legion General Pride. Again, this was a whole character arc that could have just been altered to he's the military guy in the First Order.
Yeah.
The way he gets of the villains, he's another character that probably didn't need to be there. I We haven't really talked about the plot, like the flow of the plot a lot, but
That's because there isn't one.
yes, because there's almost no. It's not even like the last two movies where things sort of develop at a natural place. It's just we got to go here now. We got to go here now. We got to go here now with only a bit, barely any explanation. So
No.
the only thing that really happens is at the end, the confrontation on Exegol.
Well, we've got to get this thing that's gonna lead us to the beacon that's gonna take us to Exegol, but it's like, oh shit, the dagger's been taken. But C-3PO looked at it. And those engravings are stored in his memory banks, but we need a memory bypass in order for him to
What?
spit it out.
Oh,
So now we
good.
got to go and get this guy to do a memory wipe, and now we've
Good.
got to go here to fucking Endor, which frankly I'm amazed there was anything left of the second Death Star for them to find the Waymaker.
I looked at Jedi's ending again. He's like, what the hell? How did that survive? Let alone the throne room is still intact.
Yeah. How in the righteous shit is anything of the Death Star still intact? Because I'm pretty sure the entire thing went up in flames. It's been a while since I've seen Return of the Jedi, but I'm fairly positive the entire thing went up in flames.
Yeah. Well, if Palpatine could survive, I guess his throne room survived with them. Maybe
And
used
it's
an
even actually Palpatine.
You think it's not Palpatine?
It's Palpatine in name only. It's Palpatine in spirit only.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up C-3PO. What the hell was the point of that sacrifice moment when they say flat out that they're gonna when they say flat out we're gonna be able to reverse this, and then they do.
Yeah, they make it look like it's going to be this big dramatic. 3PO is going to lose all of his memory, and then fucking R2 just restores it. Just like a quick. Boop. It's like he hits the on switch on 3PO's memory banks. I feel like they just put 3PO in there because he wasn't used in the other two movies a whole lot.
The last thing he did in the franchise that was useful was momentarily distracting some stormtroopers and Jedi. So they figured they had to use.
You know what? At least then he was still useful in Return of the Jedi.
What did you think of Ian McDiarmid's performance? Like, forget Palpatine, the acting.
It's Ian McDiarmid playing the most evil character, the most evil person in the galaxy. I'm fine. I was fine with his performance.
I
just wasn't fine with the way his character was worked into the movie. I was fine with him with his acting because he's always him as Palpatine is always a good time.
Well, Palpatine makes some stupid decisions, broadcasting his return and then telling Rey, "I want you to kill me so I can possess you." If he didn't tell her that, she probably would have just done it.
Yeah. And then he tries to bait her into killing him to save the Resistance. Oh, I just love how they suddenly use Rey and Kylo Ren's force communication ability to transfer objects to one another. Like it's fucking Nightmare on Elm Street is like when you grab hold of Freddy's hat and you can pull it out of the dream world and into the real world with you.
Yeah, I was wondering. I had forgotten. Did that show up in Last Jedi, or did that only show up in Rise of Skywalker?
I think in Last Jedi they were only using the Force to communicate with one another. But in this one, it's like they transfer fucking lightsabers. Like Rey transfers a lightsaber to Kylo Ren.
Kylo Ren's redemption just sort of happened. It's like she just found the switch on the back and flipped it.
Yeah. I mean, it was nice to see Harrison Ford again because it's Harrison Ford. But that was another scene that just kind of felt like, okay, well, he's seeing Han Solo because reasons. And we're supposed to like reflect the scene where Han Solo gets killed, but it's totally different because Kylo Ren is chucking his lightsaber into the sea.
Palpatine's death. So he throws Force lightning at Rey. She's struggling with one lightsaber. Then she just adds another lightsaber, and that does the trick. I was sort of under the impression that was more of a mental or spiritual force power thing, but no, it really is just number of lightsabers you have.
Yeah, so like you were telling me earlier, General Grievous would have smoked him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So uncivilized.
He doesn't stop. Like, even when he realizes the lightning is blasting him away, maybe he can't stop. Like, it's like because it's the dark side. He can't control it.
All that did was give us an homage to the face melting scene from Raiders. Except in Raiders, it was 1,000 times better.
All the Jedi. I'm happy that I watched with the subtitles on, because when all the Jedi are encouraging Rey, I would have known who was who.
I heard pieces of Luke, pieces of Yoda, pieces of Anakin, and pieces of Mace Windu. Supposedly Qui-Gon was in there, but I did not hear any part of Liam Neeson.
I also heard some characters from some of the shows.
Yeah, somebody pointed out that there were some Clone Wars voices in there.
I guess there's nothing. If you're not familiar, it's just going to be generic Jedi voice.
I haven't seen Clone Wars. I've never bothered to watch it just because I felt the art style looked kind of hideous. And yes, I do watch animated shows based on their art style and if they look any good or not.
Well, that's fair.
I'm not a fan of CG animation to begin with.
I do like 2D, kinda.
2D's a
And
lot better.
eh.
The only Clone Wars show I watched was those small, like, quick, that they were like 10, 11-minute episodes of
You're referring to the
that
2003.
were like build up to Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, I know what you mean. Oh, the original Star Wars Clone Wars as opposed to Star Wars The Clone Wars. And it was
Yeah,
in 2003. Uh,
yeah,
yeah,
I
I know what
remember.
you mean.
I remember watching those on Cartoon Network when they first came on.
We're getting off topic. Uh,
Yeah, we're getting back to a time when Star Wars was fucking Star Wars.
hey, Palpatine. Who's to say he didn't survive? Oh, we went over this. Because he could just hop from body to body. There's now no finality here. Like, who's to say he didn't just survive this? Uh,
Yeah,
like in the original.
they act like they won. They act like they've won, and the galaxy's free from evil forever. But it's like
No,
if he's able to hop, if his spirit's able to hop from body to body, where the who's to say he can't take over Kylo Ren? Because Kylo Ren's dead now. Who's to
at
say
least in
he's
the original
who's to say he
EU,
can't still take over Rey or somebody else? Does he need a hollow vessel?
maybe he did take her over. He said, "You have to kill me so I can take you over." Uh, and she ended up killing him. So maybe he did possess her, and nobody knows about it.
I don't know. I just remember when I saw I my feelings toward this movie are the same feelings I had when I saw the trailer, and that is that I never thought in my life I would ever see a promo for a Star Wars movie and I would be feeling apathy. But
Hey,
this is what happens. This is what happens when your property is taken over by a company that's powered via a process of harvesting human souls.
hey, what
And
else is there
Star
to
Wars
talk?
fan base, you are partially to blame for it.
What what is there to talk about this or about the rest of the sequel trilogy? Uh,
Honestly, I don't know what else there is to say. Frankly, I'm amazed we've even been going on for this long for talking about this movie. This is such an empty, nothing movie.
yeah, nothing really happens, does it? Uh,
No, it's the nothing meaningful, nothing substantive. It's just a movie. It's a collection of filmed events put to music. And frankly, John Williams sounds like he this whole sequel trilogy sounds like John Williams was phoning it in from orbit.
yeah.
I don't feel that hard that high energy that you get from listening to a John Williams score when I watch this movie.
Yeah,
Like
he's the man, and I can't think of any track in the sequels that stands out as memorable. Like the prequels had Duel of Fates, several other tracks. I'm going through the movie. I'm going through the different plots. I'm going through the characters, and I think we've just run out of things to say.
yeah, this is that really that summarizes the Rise of Skywalker and that summarizes the sequel trilogy in general. It's just a thing that exists.
I will make one final comment. When Ray and Palpatine are having their back and, or I guess since she's a Palpatine, I should specify. When Ray and Sheev are having their back and forth, and he says, "I am all the Sith," and she says, "And I'm," and then she pauses, and it sounds like she's trying to come up with something clever, but then she can't, so she just mimics his line with, "And I'm all the Jedi."
That feels like they just threw that in. You know what that does retroactively feel like? It feels like J.J. Abrams wanted to have his own version of an Avengers Endgame when Thanos goes, I am inevitable. And then he snaps and he realizes Tony Stark's taken all the Infinity Stones off and put them on himself. And Stark goes, and I am Iron Man and then just snaps Thanos' entire army out of existence. like Abrams wanted to have that impactful, powerful moment, except Avengers Endgame earned that shit. Endgame earned that moment, and you know what? Tony Stark earned that victory moment. It's just it's just Abrams acting like a fan fiction writer again, which is every movie I've seen of his. He he is really an overpaid fan film director.
Yeah. This was fan fiction and not very good fan fiction, and that's it.
Yeah, I guess that's gonna do it for our rant about the Rise of Skywalker. Uh, Take care, guys, and we'll see y'all in the next video. Hopefully for something that isn't so fucking bafflingly hollow, but we'll see.